Morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be here to speak in front of you on this subject which is very close to my heart. I am privileged to be here and I thank the organizers to give me this opportunity. You might be wondering why am I here in an IPR conference. I work in the field of innovation and actually in the area of open innovation, which is also called as network-based innovation. I've been working in this area for over, I think, a decade. And whatever that I know and I was speaking is more of my experiences and what we have done in the companies where I worked, not so much from the theoretical basis, but really from practice. And I really want to use this opportunity to actually give you an insight on really what really happens in open innovation. You see a whole lot of books written on open innovation. That's the buzzword today. And the word innovation, I guess everybody understands. It's no more a thing that nobody understands. The only difference is that still there is a slight gap in the sense that innovation for all of us, at least in our area, is tangible. When I say tangible, it is not just an idea. It has to translate into value. A value could come from financial value or any other indirect values like branding or a kind of differentiator that you get to cross-license or use it as a negotiation on the table and things like that. My work on this topic is with Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands. I work with Professor Kuldeep Kumar. He's at the Florida International University. I closely work with Christensen. Those of you who know about Clayton Christensen, who wrote the book Innovator's Dilemma. He's also on the board of TCS, and he's actually one of the principles behind how innovation is driven in TCS. So very quickly, given the time frame of 20 minutes, and I really want to go and just give you an insight to what are the real challenges of open innovation. What is open innovation in the first place? To start with, most companies, we realized, has a classical funnel model of innovation. Even today, while we are here discussing, there are very few people actually going and implementing open innovation. So just to kind of give you a kind of preamble to how even today most companies do innovation, this is how we depict it. Now this is a slide taken from Henry Chesbrough's work. Henry is again a pioneer in the area of open innovation. Henry Chesbrough has written a lot of books. One is Open Innovation Business Model. So what happens in a classical innovation is you have a lot of ideas. Your organization would tell you that we need a lot of ideas. So please come up with ideas. There are processes put in place to collect ideas. And of course, people really get back with lots of ideas. And then as like a stage gate process, there is a committee formed. The committee actually goes through the ideas and kind of identifies those ideas which make sense for that organization. And then you find some fundings to get that idea prototyped and market evaluated at a little later stage. And then, of course, it goes in the market. So if this is the kind of classical method of innovation process, if you notice that it's very controlled, or it has a very controlled aspect to it. Contrary to that, we have the open innovation or the network-centric innovation, which is what a lot of people seem to be talking today. Just to give you an idea, it is actually driven by commercial aspects and not so much internal. It's driven by business dynamics and not so much by what one organization looks at. The very fundamentals is that any organization in the world could never have the best people working for them, all of the best people. So that's the first principles. Number two, that in the world there are intellectuals or innovators dispersed. They are globally spaced out. While if you look at Richard Florida's work on the world is spiky, of course his study says that countries like US and especially even within US areas like Bay Area and things like that has a lot more innovative things happening. And so there are these kind of aspects, and there are very good reasons when we studied those aspects why it happens, and I will just briefly touch on that. But having said that, the whole expertise base is not just one country or one company or one region. It's actually spread out. In fact, very well fits into Thomas Friedman's work on the world is flat. So if you look at Thomas Friedman's work on world is flat very recently, he says that more and more companies, individuals, organizations have to interact, interconnect, if they have to really make some kind of a business viability. Those companies which would not do that will struggle. So when you look at that, your boundaries of your company actually starts to become perforated. That's why, if you notice that, that funnel looks a little bit perforated. So you do get ideas from outside. You have your own ideas. You actually give your ideas to the outside world. So it's a whole lot of new dynamics that happens. And now here is IPR. So this is another aspect in the whole chain. Now what happens to all of this? There's a lot of ideas are there, but who owns it? How is it going to be owned? What are the legal structures? And then again, there's one more level of complexity that we know, is that every country has its own rules, has way of operating things. So today business is becoming a lot more interesting than it was in the olden days, where it was very much monopolistic. So if you now look at the network-centric aspects, the very, the advantage or the motivation to go for network-centric is you no more look at, one company or one knowledge worker, we may say so, but you're looking at the whole world as your resource pool. So those of you actually who have read about C.K. Prahlad's work on N is equal to 1, R is equal to G, he says that in the future, when you make a product, look to an individual and make a product, because that's where you will get a lot of leverage. When I say individual, it could be also a segment of people. But when you look at resources to actually do it, look at the G, which is the global resource. And when you do that, you are most likely to be leading or competing, or you become a lot more competitive. So there are a whole lot of these, what I call the scientists writing about these aspects, and we have actually gone about trying to use that. Another important aspect is, one of the deterrent for innovation is they say we don't have funding. Where do the money come from? Truly, our realization or our aspects or our understanding of this problem is, if you really have a good idea, we can guarantee you that money will come. And while we get a lot of ideas, truly there are not so many good ideas. So there's nothing against getting ideas, but truly there are not many ideas. And people actually talked earlier that, we need to get a lot of ideas, but then how do you evaluate those ideas? And which ideas to actually take to market? And it also reminds you of an interesting analogy that when you solve a problem, you can never solve it at the same level of the complexity. So if you have a problem, let's say we have a problem in our organization to get the best talent. When you have to solve this problem, we have to go above the problem to look at it. So you can't just look at Bangalore or, for that matter, India to get your resources. So in TCS, where we have gone very global, we are hiring people in the US, Europe, Middle East, in the Eastern European countries. And that's how we are solving a problem. So you need to go above the problem when you have to solve such problems. And truly, these are becoming very global, because we had never understood what does it take to recruit people from, let's say, US. We are facing a whole lot of new dynamics, in the sense that here was an Indian company, very Indian culture, and now we have these Americans working for us, and we have to make sure that they understand our culture. And that's an absolutely complex problem. Why? Because we as Indians are a lot more flexible and accommodative when we go abroad. If I send my engineer to the US, within 3 months he's very comfortable. He loves the place, he wouldn't even come back maybe. But if I get an American to work with me at my Whitefield office, he struggles. He says, "Well, man, this damn traffic, how do you people live here? How do you work here? It's so chaotic." But what I'm saying is this is a strength. So let's leverage the strengths, because innovation is also going to be chaotic. While there was some mention about processes in innovation, I'm one of those hard bound person who says that process actually is important. If you get this notion that process is just going to kill innovation, it's not really true. What is important is you create an opportunity for a whole lot of idea generation. But when you want to go to implementation, you better have good process to ensure that product that you make is of the highest quality. Quality cannot be compromised. Today, if you go to the world market, even when you write software, we should have been truly the leaders in software, especially products and things like that, software products I'm referring to. But we are still not there. Why is it? It's simply because it's not about just writing software. It's also writing good quality software. And good quality software will not just come. It needs a certain stringent discipline when you write software. So it's a combination of art and science to that extent, and we need to understand that. So when you talk about open innovation in TCS, this is what it is. And this is already trademarked, so we call it the coin. So if you look at this, this is how we do open innovation or co-innovation, or also we call co-creation. Now these are all a whole lot of buzzwords which management gurus pick up and start talking at conferences. The only simple thing is, don't get confused. It's very, very simple. First and foremost, focus on content. Forget the peripheral. Forget about a whole lot of processes, the dynamics, and things like that. Do you have a content? What is your core competency? What is your product? Why is it differentiated? And how would you be able to differentiate it? And then only start looking at the network. Because a network is of no meaning to you if the network really doesn't support you. If we go and try to pick up companies who are the best in the world, we are going to get very little out of it. It's not so much saying that we are actually partnering with the best American company or the best European company. It's really about what are we actually doing together. What is our contribution in this network? And what is the contribution that the other network players will complement? If you don't get that right, the whole partnership breaks down. So a lot of people come back and tell us, yeah, we have a fantastic partnership, but really nothing's working. It's because there's no content. There's no underlying, one single goal this organization is trying to take forward or want to do. So having said that, it's very important in a network to look at, who are your partners? What is that I bring on the table? What is my core competency? And what is the other network partners are going to do? Right? So really get down to, to the base, to the earth, and understand what is that I can deliver. For example, in our organization, we know what is our core competency. Do you mean to say that we don't innovate? For example, a lot of problems we have is we believe that Indians can't innovate. You mean to say the top 3 IT software services companies in India are easily, their case studies are talked all over the world. You mean to say to run an organization which is 150,000 people, you mean to say that we don't innovate? Is it something very simple that you can just run an organization which is 150,000 people? How do you manage this? And you have people from all over the world. We do global software development. We have all kind of processes in place where we do almost 24/7 support. So maybe we might not be very good at articulating what we are doing, and that's also what our studies talk about, and it's a matter of time. So once you have the content and you focus on your content, the rest will fall in place. So my message to people here is focus on the content. Everything will fall in place. Focus on what your strengths are. When you're doing a network, Look at what is that you will contribute, what is the network partners contribute. Let's not talk about IPR issues and talk about profitability even before you start working together or identifying what you want to do. Having said that, I just want to touch on three aspects of challenges of open innovation. And those are actually, one is motivating. It's been a struggle, so it's not been very easy for us. Like when I showed you the TCS Co-Innovation Network, it's not been very easy. It's about how do you actually motivate people to go open innovation, go and actually take external knowledge. We have this classic problem of, most of you know this, called NIH, which is not invented here syndrome. And how do you break that? So interestingly, sometimes you realize that cultures do play a huge role. It's important that, I don't know if somebody spoke about cultural aspects in this whole context. When you work with the Chinese, when you work with an American or Australian, and let's say a guy from Middle East, Eastern Europe, the way they think, the underlying way they work is quite different from the way an Indian works. So there are a whole lot of aspects of culture coming in, which you need to take care. It's also about the level of competency. It is not that when you put people together, they will automatically work together. It's a little bit like math. If you know how to solve a problem in mathematics, math is actually a language by itself. So when mathematicians talk, it doesn't really matter if you're a Russian, a German, or a French. They actually talk in terms of numbers. So you need a common language. When you're doing open innovation, you need a common language on which you talk. If you don't kind of find the semantics and the syntactic aspect of that common language, forget your open innovation. It's not going to work. So you need a real common language, and that's one of the reasons why this doesn't happen, because when you don't communicate at the same wavelength or at the same platform, it's extremely difficult to communicate. It's almost like a German talking to a French guy who doesn't understand German. So how do you then motivate people to understand these aspects, understand that you really have to contribute and get from outside world instead of trying to reinvent what you're doing? So this is one of the major aspects in terms of motivating people within the organization to go open innovation. The second thing is incorporating. So when you talk about incorporating, even if you happen to manage the first part, which is you speak the same language and things like that, there is the underlying technology and processes on which you have built your organization. How do you actually take that into your organization? Or if you want to give it to somebody else, how would you take that and give it to somebody? So you need to actually merge this. That's why a whole lot of merger acquisitions fail. Right? One of the biggest challenges merger acquisitions are because the ability to incorporate that knowledge from A company to B company fails. Nothing wrong with the financial aspects and things like that. So this is about how do you actually incorporate knowledge into the organization? How do you actually bring it together? And that's one of the major challenges. The third one, which is maximizing, and this is where one of the aspects is your intellectual property. Having done this, you have to show that really open innovation helped. And you really have to maximize it. So it's not like, you have an idea and you have it in your product. But can I now maximize in the sense that, can I take this idea and actually sell it to another company? A company which is not in your own area of business. A company in which is in a different business. Right? So there is sometime back I read how in the north of India, they actually use washing machines to make lassis, because lassi is, they drink lassi by loads. The people drink so much of lassi. And if you have to make so much quantity of lassi, you have to churn it. So they have figured out a way to actually use a washing machine to make lassi. So it's the ability to actually maximize the ideas that you have is one of the key areas, because your finance guys will say, what is the return on investment? So, this is one of the classic killer of innovation, one may say. So we are doing this, but you're doing all this network and all that. So what is the return on investment? When will I get it? So you already have to start thinking about these aspects of maximizing ideas, which is your ideas as well as ideas brought inside, and also a combination of ideas, right? So with that, I would say that you have the three challenges of open innovation. Of course, this is too short a time. If some of you would want to know more about it, you can get in touch with me. My email address is with the organizers. And with that, I would rather stop my talk. Just to summarize, I just kind of told you what is open innovation, how is it kind of different from the classical innovation, and very, very briefly talk to you about challenges of open innovation. Thank you very much.